I'm Miss Sarah, and this is At Home Makerspace, where every week I show you how to make fun projects with things you can find at home. This week we are wrapping up our Snowflake series with a project that combines art and math. We'll be exploring how art uses math concepts like angles, shapes, and symmetry as we make our own snowflake art. You might be surprised to learn how much math you can find in art. One math concept you can find is an angle. An angle is formed when two straight lines touch at a common endpoint called the vertex. These lines can rotate around the vertex to become larger angles or smaller angles. When you measure an angle, you're trying to see how much you'd have to rotate one line so it lines up with the other line. You can measure angles with a tool called a protractor. This half-circle shape has the numbers 0 to 180 around the outside. These numbers help you measure the size of an angle. Here's how to do it. To measure this angle, we'll take our straight edge and line it up with one of our lines. Make sure your hole here is on the vertex or where the two lines meet. The number the other line touches tells us how big our angle is. This one is 90 degrees. Here's a look at another 90-degree angle. So how does all this math fit in with art? In this painting, the sun's rays and the space between the rays form angles. Angles are also helpful for evenly dividing up shapes. This circular stained glass window is divided into 8 equal parts. Each section has the same angle measurement. You could use a protractor to measure and discover that it is 45 degrees. Now that we know how it works, let's apply this same math to our snowflake art. Here I have a 6-sided snowflake. To make snowflake art, I'm going to want to figure out how far apart the arms of my snowflake need to be. Let's draw some angles. I could measure one angle to figure out how far apart my arms need to be, or we could try another math trick. If we measure all the way around our circle, we get 360 degrees. Now we divide 360 by 6, and we learn that each arm must be 60 degrees apart. And now that we've done the math and know what angles we need to measure, it's time to start making our snowflake. To make this project, you'll need some paper, a pencil, and a protractor. If you don't have a protractor at home, there'll be a link to a printable protractor in the description. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is draw a straight line with the bottom of my protractor. This will be a 6-inch line, and I'm just going to try to put this line as close to the middle of my paper as I can. You just want to make sure that you have room above and below this line for the other lines you'll need to draw. Okay, now I'm going to put a mark halfway, so that will be at 3 inches. And then I'm going to use this little hole here and line that up with the mark I just made. To get an accurate measurement, it is really important to line it up with that little hole and not the bottom of your protractor. Now I'm going to make a mark here at 60 and again at 120. Now I can use the straight edge of my ruler to draw a line between the two marks I made. And if I did everything correctly, this new line should also be 3 inches long. Okay, now I'm just going to turn my protractor and do the same thing with the other angle. So I'm lining up my 2 marks and then drawing a straight line. And I went a little bit too far beyond that mark, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase the extra. So this line is in fact 3 inches long. Now, to make the other 2 lines, you have 2 choices. You can line up your straight edge with one of your existing lines and create your new line that way, or you can flip it upside down and make a new mark at 60 degrees. Then we'll just connect our 2 marks, and as you can see, it does line up with the other line on the other side. And now our pattern is complete. We now have 6 evenly spaced arms upon which to build our snowflake. Another math concept that you'll find in a lot of art is the geometric shape. Now, geometric shapes include things like circles, triangles, squares, and rectangles. Let's check out some artwork that uses geometric shapes. This artwork was made by a famous artist named Piet Mondrian, who used colorful squares and rectangles in many of his paintings. Now that you've seen how geometric shapes can be used to make art, it's time to use some shapes to make our snowflakes. To make your shapes, you'll need some colored paper and a pair of scissors. Start by cutting shapes out of your colored paper. I'm going to start by cutting some small squares, and I want to make sure that all of my squares are about the same size and shape. Other geometric shapes you might cut are rectangles, triangles, circles, and hexagons. Make sure to cut out at least 6 of every shape. That way you have at least 1 for each arm of your 6-sided snowflake. And finally, a third math concept you can often find in art is symmetry. Now, there are a few different kinds of symmetry, but one they'll often find in art is called reflection symmetry. Now, reflection symmetry is when something is essentially mirrored on its other side. So if I hold my hands like this, I am showing you reflection symmetry because my 2 hands are mirror images of one another. This mosaic has reflection symmetry. The left side is a mirror image of the right side. Another type of symmetry you'll often see in art is rotational symmetry. Here's an example. As you can see, if I rotate this circle, the pattern still looks the same. This is rotational symmetry. This stained glass window also has rotational symmetry. Each of these 4 quarters is identical, so if you rotated it, the picture would look the same. And now that you know more about rotational symmetry, we can use it to make our snowflake. You'll need the pattern we drew earlier, the shapes we cut out earlier, and possibly a glue stick. So I'm going to start my snowflake art by putting a hexagon in the very middle of my snowflake. Now I'm going to add shapes all the way down one of the arms. So I have a rectangle and a square and a circle, and I'm going to finish that off with a couple of triangles on either side. And when that arm is complete, I'm going to repeat the pattern on the other 5 arms. And here's the finished snowflake. See how angles, geometric shapes, and symmetry have come together to make it? If you want to make your art permanent, glue your pieces down with a glue stick. But like real snowflakes that don't last long, my favorite thing to do is to clear my snowflake and use my pieces to build a new snowflake. So I'm going to put a circle here in the middle, and this time I'm going to add a shape to each arm of my snowflake before adding the next shape. And here we have a brand new piece of snowflake art. We hope you enjoyed learning how to make snowflake art using math concepts. But snowflakes aren't the only kind of art you can make using math. So if you make a snowflake or another art project using angles, shapes, or symmetry, we'd love to see what you've made. So please share it with us at the library. You can do so through our Facebook at www.facebook.com/FHCPL, through our Instagram. Our handle is @FHCPL, or you can send us an email. Our email address is makerspace@finleylibrary.org. We hope you've enjoyed this last video in our Snowflake series. Be sure to join us again next week for a brand new project. See you then. Bye!